All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon. In this video, tremendously unfair circumstance took place in boxing over the weekend, and that a fighter got ripped off in a fight that should have been a knockout. However, there's almost no outrage about it, despite many of the people who aren't reacting having thrown hissy fits about Gervonta Davis versus Lamont Roach. Let's talk about that double standard in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to talk about a match that took place early March this year, which was between Gervonta Davis and Lamont Roach. It was a controversial fight because in the middle of the fight, Gervonta Davis took a knee because a braid got in his eye that had some type of grease on it that caused his eye to burn. He took a knee. The referee, he got up, told the referee what happened, and the referee said, okay, it's not a knockdown, but don't do that again, and the fight continued. The fight went on to Lamont Roach having the fight being called a draw. As a result of that, people wrote the New York State Athletic Commission about it. And who wrote the commission about it? In this particular instance, it was a journalist that went by the name of Dan Rayfield. I'm just using him for an example. As soon as that fight was over, he wrote a letter to the New York State Athletic Commission and so did Lamont Roach, and wanted to have that fight overturned because they say that knockdown should have been considered, that knee should have been considered a knockdown. And if you would have taken the score of the fight with that knockdown, that means Gervonta Davis would have won. And they thought it was absolutely ridiculous and terrible thing that this injustice happened to Lamont Roach. Well, fine and dandy. You think that was necessary, cool. So they went through the paperwork, they did everything they had to do, and guess what happens? The New York State Athletic Commission leaves the fight as it was, and people think that it's just a terrible thing, right? It was, in fact, there was an article written on ESPN news, a website about it, right? But when I look for their articles about what happened with Emmanuel Navarette versus Charlie Suarez, I don't hear anything from them. I haven't seen anything from them. And what happened to Charlie Suarez? Something worse, because Charlie Suarez hit Emmanuel Navarette with a right hand, a clean right hand, and caused a serious gash over his eye. And Emmanuel Navarette could not continue. They called it, instead of calling a knockout, they call it a knockdown, right? And as a result, the fight winds up being, I think if they wind up fighting to a draw, or they wind up giving Emmanuel Navarette the win, and people are saying how unjust that is. But while they're saying how unjust that is, they're not writing any letters to anybody. They're not calling for it to be overturned. They just say, okay, another bad day at the office, let's keep it pushing. See the difference between Gervonta Davis and the treatment of Gervonta Davis when it's a PBC card and Emmanuel Navarette when it's a top-ranked card? You don't hear the outrage. You don't hear the pushes for these guys to have their fight overturned. You don't hear any of that. All that is selective. That's a selective thing for Gervonta Davis. And that's not the only area in which you see these double standards when it comes to Gervonta. In fact, before the Lamont Roach fight, Gervonta Davis was said to that he needed to move all the way up to 147 pounds for him to really prove that he's great, right? that he cannot stay in his same weight class and defend against fighters in his weight class and still be considered great. They said that all the way up until the Lamont Roach fight, and then the Lamont Roach fight winds up being good. And top of it, Lamont Roach comes out and says, hey, man, I'm bigger than Gervonta Davis. Keyshawn Davis says Lamont Roach, that Gervonta Davis is too small for him. Shakur Stevenson says that Gervonta Davis is too small. Devin Haney at a point in time said that Gervonta Davis isn't really even a 135 pounder. He's really a 130 pounder. So, but despite all of that, Gervonta Davis is the one that is draining people down into weight classes that they, by the way, have already been campaigning in and were campaigning in and fought other people in. But for some reason, it's Gervonta Davis that's draining these guys down in weight class. But it's not them that has decided to join, to be in a weight class so that they could have an advantage in that weight class, right? Almost everything that can be skewed against Gervonta Davis is skewed against Gervonta Davis. And this double standard proves it. And when Kamal Oz, shout out to Kamal Oz, brought it up on the channel, I was like, you're 100% right. I'll make a video about it because this is absolutely ridiculous. Now, if we are insisting on fights being overturned because of bad judges' scorecards or because of instant replays that we disagree with, because my understanding was instant replay was there for that fight, and instant replay, for some reason, upheld that was a headbutt, even though there was a clean punch that landed right on his eye. Right? Same thing happened with the replay in New York City for Gervonta Davis fight. They reviewed it and they were like, hey, there's no conclusive reason to override what the referee says, and they let that stick. But that didn't stop people from going ham on that judge, who I believe was no, it wasn't Harvey Dock, but going nuts on that referee for that bad call, just because the instant replay didn't overturn them. But anyway, we should just get used to that in boxing. As long as we have this wonderful media that we have, we're going to have very, very selective standards for fighters. It's going to depend on who the fighter is. That depends on that will determine how much outrage they have about what happens with that fighter. If it's a big name fighter like Canelo, trust you me, they're not going to think about that for 5 seconds. They're going to talk about it. They're going to sweep it on the rung and push it over. But if it's Gervonta, then you're going to get a full 3 weeks, 4 weeks of bashing of the man, all the way up until the New York State Athletic Commission sides with him. At which point in time, you're going to bash the New York State Athletic Commission for siding with him. Anyway it goes, it's just a shady, janky game, and the double standards need to go. But at very least, we as boxing fans can recognize them when we see them. Anyway, that's my take on the matter. Please let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Deuces.